Okay, hi, we're back for our study in Wisdom, chapter 8 in the Apocrypha. So I did actually just beforehand, the last hour I've been looking at it and writing some things down, and so it should be enough, I would hope. Anyway, so chapter 8, we'll begin reading in the Apocrypha, Wisdom. Verse number 1, Wisdom reaches from one end to another mightily, and sweetly does she order all things. That's important to underline. Doth she order all things? And sweetly does she order all things. So where did that take us to? Do we see an example in the Bible of somebody that doesn't come right out right and tell us who it is that's doing it, ordering things? Where is it? Oh, come on. It's not Proverbs. It is Psalm. I got it down here somewhere. Psalm 77. Psalm 78. How come I get Psalm 78? Psalm 50. Alright. And I had got into reading this again, because I really do like this chapter. Yeah, go in and read this chapter. I highly recommend it. But what does it say? Let's read it again. Wisdom reaches from one end to another mightily and sweetly does she order all things. So from the sounds of it, she brings it all together, brings it all around. So from one end to the other and orders it. So verse 20 of Psalm 50, this is where we're going to pick up orders all things. So we know it's wisdom speaking here. I truly believe this is wisdom. It can't be anybody else. Thou sittest and speakest against thy brother. Thou slanderest thine own mother's son. Now, we know this is a lie. We know that. Because it was the woman that got slandered. We know it was Adam who accused her in the garden, and we know it was her that went silent. She did not respond back to the accusation, which is why we then pick her up in Isaiah 42 saying, long time have I held my peace. Now am I going to go forth like a travailing woman. Now what that travailing woman means is the spirit that's finally going to deliver her children. That's what it means. But here we have, you sit and you slander, you speakest against thy sister. That's who you spoke against. Go back to the beginning, to the slanderer. Thou slanderest thine own mother's daughter. Mother Wisdom, the Ancient of Days. You slandered me, her daughter, Wisdom. That's who you slandered. These things hast thou done, and I kept silent. I've never refuted anything, ever. But watch what she does here. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such as one as thyself. You thought I was a man. Just like you, that's what she's saying here. There's not one tabernacle male in existence. There happens to be two, male and female. And the female one went silent when she allowed you to yoke her because she went into great mourning because you pierced her with your lies. You thought that I was altogether a man like you. But I'm going to reprove you, and I will set them in order before your eyes. Who does that? Wisdom. Wisdom reaches from one end to another, from the beginning to the end. And she sweetly does she order all things. And she says, but I will reprove thee. Who? You, fallen Adam. And I will set them in order before your eyes. Right? There's a little book sealed up in here, and it's the little book of truth that she's going to set in order. And what does God say? Who can tell to me what happened from the beginning to the end? Who? You tell me who can do that. Only wisdom can do that. That's who. You thoughtest that I was altogether a man like you. Well, most are like men because they just tend to be bouncing back just what he wants her to say back. That's Baal, right? Isaiah 54:1. He married the wife of his covenant is Baal. And all she does is she bounces back just what he's taught her to say. So, of course, he loves the harlot, exalted in his heart. But he's never really bothered to get to know wisdom. He's never really bothered to get to know the true wife or spirit of the original and first and only covenant that really does matter to God. He's never really bothered to get to know her. He's just happy with her telling him, oh, tickle, tickle, what he wanted to hear from the very beginning. But he can't be bothered to actually get to know wisdom. David could. Watch what David's got to say about her. And I'll set them in order before your eyes. Now consider this, you that have forgotten God. Well, the presence of God known as the camp of Mahanaim, who you see with the Shulamite, this double camp, also called your she-goats. We get the mention of the she-goats in Genesis 15:9. That's the covenant that will be restored back. And you get the she-goat mentioned as a second animal there. Well, that's your allegory to the daughters of Israel, daughter of Zion, that were rejected, who are promised to be rebirthed out of the dust of the earth, reborn out of sheol, out of the womb of sheol. Now consider this, you that have forgot God, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. Whosoever offereth praise glorifieth me, and to them that ordereth their conversation aright will I show the salvation of the Lord. Now there's two of us now in pursuit of that truth, male and female. And they want to put everything male. Well, before the male can ever find it, it has to be the female that finds it first, because she is the representation of wisdom on earth and the spirit upon this earth, who got rejected in the very beginning. Without her restoration, men will never and can never be restored again back to God, ever. Now, you can argue that. That's fine. I know that everything they've taught us is a lie off the pulpit. I know that for a fact because I allowed wisdom to teach me the truth. Now, let's go back in. Verse 2. I loved her and sought her out from my youth. I desired to make her my spouse, and I was a lover of her beauty. Where does that take us? Now, understand, the voice is going to change here from male to female. Here in the Old Testament, we're actually strongly being shown who this is. This is David. This is David, who desired to make wisdom his spouse, the spirit of his covenant, as well she was the spirit of the original covenant denied by the first Adam. David, we get the key of David in total opposition to the key of Solomon. Now they want to tell you this is Solomon and you get the songs of Solomon. No, it was the songs of David. That's what they were. And David loved her. The key of David. He had the key. He knew the key to immortality, and it was wisdom. He knew that. Without the key, you're going nowhere but into the pit again. And that's the womb of Sheol. That's why these daughters are promised to be rebirthed out of the dust of the earth, out of the womb of Sheol. And it's on them to do it. All right? So he says, I loved her and sought her out from my youth. I desired to make her my spouse, and I was a lover of her beauty. Now, this is what they'll tell you. In Psalm 27:4, let's go to Psalm 27:4 and read it in this context, and then see if we can understand that maybe the men have rewritten it in a manner that they want it to. That would maybe just empower them. What does it say? I actually wrote it down here. One thing have I desired of the Lord. This is Psalm 27, verse 4. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord, and to inquire in, watch what they say, his temple. Yeah, because he was in love with a man in his beauty. Right? What did it say here? I loved her and sought her out from my youth. I desired to make her my spouse, and I was a lover of her beauty. See, David got to know his spouse. He did. He really loved her in her temple. You see this body? This is my temple. Mine. My temple. There's two tabernacles below, a male and a female. And you're going to tell me that David desired to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. Yeah, that's what you're going to tell me. Because she was nothing. this here is telling us David loved wisdom. He wanted to make her his spouse. David did. That's the key of David. That's what that is. And we do get that. That's the only one I didn't pull up, was Song of Songs 4:12. This is important to read it, because otherwise you won't understand where the true water comes from. Oops. Sorry. Song of Songs 4. We'll do parallel chapters. It's just good. So we go to 12. Verse 12. What does it say? Verse 12. A garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse. We also get them identified as the lilies of the covenant. They're also identified as she-goats. They're identified as the daughters of Israel. They're identified as wisdom. They're identified as the stone rejected. All of these are her titles. And they pierced upon her to remove the spirit of her covenant out of the land, whereas David actually desired to make her his spouse. Solomon wanted 700 wives and 200 concubines. Yeah, that's from God. Yeah, sure it is. Debase the woman. Yeah, let her eyes look upon Zion, let her be defiled. That's all Solomon desired to do. Solomon didn't have no wisdom. And we know it's Solomon that the one we link the number 666 back to. Solomon desired to make the light dark. He didn't want it light. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. Strong's Hebrew 216 is light. 6666 is the symbol of a covenant, whether light or dark. And we know that Solomon determined to make the covenant dark. That's what we know. By taking 700 wives, 200 concubines, he changed out and he blocks out, he walls up the gateways of the righteous daughters who were the key of David. Right? And he changes that key, the flock in the midst of Bozrah, over into a harlot spirit known as the key of Solomon, which currently is what is ruling in the earth and in the second heaven. Because that's what's exalted in the heart of man. Isaiah 47, no one sees me, I will never be widowless, I will never be childless, it'll always be mine. No one sees me. No one sees me. She's hid in his heart. That's what's ruling in the earth. Okay, so a garden enclosed is my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. Thy plants are an orchard of pomegranates with pleasant fruits, campfire with spikenard, and saffron, calamus, and cinnamon, with all trees of frankincense, myrrh, and aloes, with all the chief spices. And verse 15, a fountain of gardens, a well of living water, and streams from Lebanon. So we know it was the government of God that met in the house of Lebanon. We've identified this using the key of David to do that with. It's the key of David that's going to be able to break open the scriptures. And you only get the key of David by seeking out wisdom. And prudence is closely linked to that. You know what prudence actually means? Though they try to lead your mind astray. It means cautious. You approach the truth with caution. Don't be bowing at the feet of an idol. Look for the truth and you be cautious when you do it. That idol, you're too willing to bow down at the feet of an idol, and that is what's becoming between you and your God. So let's go on. So we've established it was actually wisdom that David was desiring to look upon in her temple. There's 2 tabernacles below, male and female, not one. Verse 3, in that she is conservant with God, she magnifieth her nobility, yea, the Lord of all things herself loved her. And she did. That's why she gave her to us. Without wisdom, you have nothing. For she is privy to the mysteries of the knowledge of God and a lover of her works. Now that could be a man or a woman. But again, like I said, because women have become Baal, she's no different than him. Baal married Baal, right? I'm not going over this again. But he married, the wife of the covenant is called Baal, of this dark covenant is called Baal, because she spouts back just what he wants. So in order for this covenant to be restored, Baal, the wife, has to seek after the truth. She really does. Because she's wisdom's representation on this earth. Man cannot be restored without that. He can't. You will never have immortality without wisdom, the women, to guide you to it. You don't like it, but that's how it is. For she is privy to the mysteries of the knowledge of God and a lover of her works. Now, where do we get mysteries mentioned in the Bible? Well, we get the mystery revealed when the seventh trumpet finally sounds in Revelation 10. So where is Revelation here? Revelation, right there. Revelation, what does it say? Verse 7? But in the days when the seventh angel is about to sound, not his trumpet, it's hers, the mystery of God will be accomplished just as she announced to her servants, the prophetesses. Once they finally come back into existence, they'll finally wake up and realize how foolish this ridiculous notion is that man is God, 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 and woman must bow to him because she has no head. He's her head. Oh, yeah. Even though what he's telling her makes absolutely no sense. None. And it's full of nothing but accusations off of the pulpit. She's going to rebuke him. Wisdom. And we know it's wisdom that's going to rebuke him. She's going to set the case in order. We know that from Psalm 50. Allow me to set the case in order. I'm going to finally open my mouth and I'm going to show you my stronghold. That's your argument. It's represented by the neck area on the Shulamite in Song of Songs. Her stronghold, her fortress is the neck, and the neck is your fortress because it's identifying your argument. And since she never presented one since the beginning of time, that's why we get who's going to present this from the beginning to the end, which is what wisdom is capable of doing. Wisdom reaches from one end to another mightily, and sweetly does she order all things. That's what she does. As Mother Wisdom's, the Ancient of Days representation here on earth. But in the days of the voice of the seventh angel, when she shall begin to sound, the mystery of God should be finished, as she hath declared it to her servants, the prophetesses. Yeah, she sends ahead her angel. That's what it looks like, her seventh angel. And there's one thing I've believe only the few that comes out of the water, they were actually born of water, is your understanding. And then you've got those who are born of the earth, like the physical earth. It's only the ones born of the water that can claim both water and earth, is what it looks like. So that's why you see this angel in Revelation 10 standing on both water and earth, taking back her birthright. It's only those of us who are born of the water. And we see in the very beginning of creation, because we read it here, that she actually was kind of took from the element of the water, right? And so these that are born of the water, and it appears they're unique, they're special, but they also had to bear the burden upon them to restore back the kingdom. And so your true heirs are born of water. They're different in nature in many ways because they do come from the water of Mother. And then those born of the earth comes from them, is what it looks like. So far, that's kind of what it looks like. There's more mysteries here we want to read. So Psalm 78 was another chapter. Where are we going to go here? Where is it back here? Right. Is that it? Right there. So Psalm 78. Now, what verse was that to? Let's keep reading till we... Okay, so let's read. We'll read a few verses here. We'll go down so far, and then we'll backtrack and we'll read how these all correlate, okay? So, in that she is conversant with God, she magnifieth her nobility. Yea, the Lord of all things herself loved her. For she is privy to the mysteries of the knowledge of God and a lover of her works. So, these daughters were handpicked from the beginning of creation. They were the foundation stone, rejected, and the water was found with them. which is why we see Moses striking the stone, right? They are the water as well, right? So she's able to claim both, that, but they originally was born out of the water. If riches be a possession to be desired in this life, what is richer than wisdom that worketh all things? So we're not talking about material wealth. In order to achieve immortality, this wealth is far different. It's defined in a much different context. It's not material goods that defines wisdom. It's so many other things. But by finding those other qualities of wisdom, truth being at the top, in my opinion, you're going to find all of the material wealth that you could ever want. And if prudence work, who of all that are is more cunning work, it's got man, than she, a workwoman, than she. Right? There's none more cunning than wisdom. None. And cunning isn't negative. She's very clever, very smart, crafty. They'll want to put some negativity to this. But we also see her mocking you in the day of your calamity. So there comes a point where her indignation does get riled, right? Everybody tends to want to view wisdom in this real genteel manner. And while, yes, in the beginning she was here in this gentle manner to teach us the laws of heaven, there comes a point where you do push her and she does become very indignant. And she will truly show you all the power that she has. She says in one of these passages here, and it may be 78, Psalm 78, I held back my wrath. You have not seen my wrath yet. And it is there. So let's read. And if prudence work, who of all that are is a more cunning workwoman than she? And if a man loveth righteousness, her labors are virtues, for she teacheth temperance and prudence, justice and fortitude, which are such things as one can have, nothing more profitable in their life. You can't have anything greater. So if a man, a woman desires much experience, she knoweth things of old. So that's setting the case in order from beginning to end. And sweetly does she order all things, verse 1. Right? So she knoweth the subtleties of speeches and can expound dark sentences, that's riddles, and we'll find them in the scriptures spoken of often. She foreseeth signs and wonders in the events of the seasons of the time. Therefore I propose to take her to me to live with me, knowing that she would be a counselor of good things and a comfort in cares and grief. So they'll want you to believe this is David taking this. But again, the women are the representation of wisdom on this earth. Mother claims us as her inheritance. The daughters first, they are born out of the water first. As wisdom, we get this elemental context here that we looked at. Actually, yeah, it was to do with Proverbs that we studied. That wasn't in here, which is some videos back. But we speak of her in the elemental context as water. She was the water that was first created. And from the water comes everything else, right? Without the water, you don't have life. But we get that elemental context also of the stone, her being the stone that held the water. So you get that. She springs like a fountain out of the earth. And so you get that elemental perspective, right? I'm blathering right now. So, okay, so we're going to go back to the mysteries, because the mystery gets revealed in Revelation 10:7. And then we're going to read Psalm 78. Now, why did I put Psalm 78 down? I thought I took pretty good notes, but let's read 78. That's what I was doing in my study, because we get the instructions mentioned over and over again. Yeah, because you wouldn't hearken to my instructions, she says in Proverbs 1. So, O my people, to my law, incline your ears to the words of my mouth. So, again, we get that with Proverbs. In Proverbs, her saying, you wouldn't listen to my instructions. You wouldn't hearken to me. And she says, but I will open my mouth in a parable, and I will utter dark sayings of old, riddles of old. So here we have her able to put all things in order. She does order things all. I can't read. And she sweetly does she order all things. And then down here, and can expound dark sentences, riddles. She foreseeth signs and wonders in the events of seasons and times. And therefore he proposed to take her to him as a counselor, but she does too. And what does it say? With, the counsel of many, you will make your war. Well, that's wisdom making her war, is what it is. It is. Wow, I did my study so much better the first time around. I should do that from now on. Let's read this, though. I will open my mouth in a parable. I will utter dark sayings of old. So we know this is wisdom because she's described here doing the same thing in verse 8 of chapter 8. So, which we have heard and known, and our fathers have told us? No, this doesn't make sense in the context of this whole chapter. Which we have heard and known in the past, but our fathers have not told us. And they didn't tell us. They went out of their way to make it not known to us, as you can see in the context. So we will not hide them from their children, showing to generations to come the praises of the Lord and her strength and her wonderful work that she has done. What they did not tell us was her wonders. And we're going to go into more detail on what her wonders were. And we know that it was she that parted the waters. It was the presence of God. The parting of the Red Sea is allegorical to the birthing canal. She pushes her children through. Long time have I held my peace. Now will I go forth as a travailing woman. I will destroy and I will devour it. At once I will make the pathways known to you that were not known to you. And before the waters come in and cover over my path. My footprints were not seen. And the reason is because the fathers failed to share that truth with you. But when these daughters come in, they say, we're not going to hide this from our children, so that the generation to come might know them, even the children which should be born, who should arise and declare them to their children, that they might set their hope in God and not forget the works of God, but keep her commandments. Where did the commandments come from? The wife of the original covenant. Father was to uphold those commands, and he did not. He did not. He spoke wickedly of the spirit of the original covenant. We see this all over the Bible. We've studied it. And might not be as their fathers, that's right, and their mothers, who turned into Baal herself. But we'll go with fathers because they didn't want to receive the wise women inside the nation of Israel or their commandments. A stubborn and rebellious generation, a generation that set not their heart aright, and whose spirit was not steadfast with God. The presence of God was the wise women on earth. They're female because they're representing the female. The children of Ephraim, being armed and carrying bows, turned back in the day of battle. We also get that they did turn on their sisters, their own sisters of the covenant. They did not uphold that covenant. They turned on them. They kept not the covenant of God and refused to walk in her law. What does wisdom say in Proverbs 1? Hearken to my instructions. That's what she says. Where's Proverbs? I have no particular order here. Proverbs 1. Hearken to my instructions, she says. This is wisdom speaking again. To know wisdom and instruction. To perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity. What is that if that isn't the law? And you are to receive it from wisdom. Wisdom was identified as the presence of God on earth. The presence of God was identified as the women, the wise women in the nation of Israel. That's right. And he agreed to a covenant with those wise women and then turned on it. That's what we see them doing. So to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man, to the woman, knowledge and discretion. You will increase your learning when you listen to her. You will become understanding, and you will attain to wise counsel. To understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. There's you go with your riddles. You'll begin to understand it all. Once you begin to hearken to Mother Wisdom. And you are not doing that. You're bowing down at the feet of an idol going, he. God says, you saw no image of me, you make no image of me. You were to receive the law off of my daughter's tongues, but you didn't want that. You wanted to play God yourself. You had too much pride. That's right. And the name Satan goes straight back to the first Adam under Baal, Beelzebub, devil, daemon. The daemons, who are domen, climbed to the top of her mountain and took control of her throne. That's what they did. And we get wisdom setting her case in order in Psalm 50. It's her setting her case in order after they turned on her law and her instruction. So here we get to give subtle, we get the instruction, right, in verses 2 and 3. And then when you go to Psalm 50, I'm back here. If we go up here, I believe we go up further. She speaks of the instructions and them not listening to her. Up here, I'll find it. I guess I should have took better notes. She shall call to the heavens from above and to the earth that she may judge her people. She was the judge. I will gather my saints together unto me, those that have made a covenant with me by sacrifice, and the heaven shall declare her righteousness, for God is judge herself. She is the judge. We get that in Micah chapter 5. They have struck the judge upon the cheek, and it caused her to go silent upon the hills of Israel. That was the daughters who were your scepters for strong rule, and had been born next to many waters. Many waters. So they had much water to educate them. That was allegorical to the wise women that were given covenant. I will not reprove thee for thy sacrifice. Yeah, we've done this. Absolute, she does reprove you for your sacrifices. You were not to bring blood. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine, the fullness thereof. Offer unto God thanksgiving, and pay thy vows unto the Most High. Thanksgiving. Not a sacrifice, not a blood offering. And call upon me. Call upon who? Well, you say God, but that's wisdom. Call upon wisdom in the day of trouble. I will deliver thee, and thou shalt glorify me. So how do we know that this is all in context of wisdom? Go to Proverbs 1. If we go down here. My son, my daughter, hear the instructions of thy father. Right, but his instructions comes from the mother. And forsake not the law of thy mother, or the instructions of the mother. That's wisdom. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. If you're enticed by sinners, my son, to do violence and shed blood, don't do it, she says. And if they say, let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit, which is what they did. We see Solomon digging another pit, a well, right? And rejecting the original well that was put there. From all accounts, Shira put it there. But you would not hearken to the maker thereof. You wouldn't listen to the daughters of wisdom. So Solomon ends up making another pit, which is what these men are attesting to. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave. Well, that became Sheol. You go down into the womb of Sheol. And you're only birthed out of Sheol, the womb of Sheol, when you begin to hearken back to the spirit of the original covenant. Then will you be born anew. Otherwise, you're going back down into the pit of Sheol. And where are the kings, we're told, trapped? They're trapped in the womb of Sheol, and they can't get out of it. That's right. But you take a risk when you do that, every time you die, of not coming back out, of this world actually being burned, and there being no chance. We shall find all precious substance, we shall fill our house with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us, let us all have one purse. Then, my son, walk not thou in thy way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Watch them. They couldn't make enough wars. They couldn't write enough laws to yoke us under them and steal our goods. They couldn't do that enough. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privily for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. And they did. The daughters of Israel were the owners. The water was able to claim both water and land. And this was her possession. So wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the street. She crieth in the chief places of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her word, saying, How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? The simplicity of this religion, man, is God. You bow to him. Wow. And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. And they do. So you mock, you scorn wisdom when she appears. You don't want nothing to do with her. And what does she say? She says, Turn you at my reproof. Behold, I will pour out my spirit unto you, and I will make known my words unto you. I'll break down the riddles for you, but hearken to me. But you won't. You're too busy bowed at the feet of an idol to listen to wisdom. You can't be bothered. So she says, Because I have called and you refused, and I have stretched out my hand, and no one regarded, but ye have set at naught all of my counsel, and would none of my reproof. You would not listen to my correction. Since you neglected all my counsel and did not accept my correction, guess what I'm going to do? For those who thinks wisdom is so genteel, this is what wisdom says she's going to do to you when you can't be bothered to listen to her. I, in turn, will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you. When terror strikes you like a storm, she says, I'm going to bring down that whitewashed wall that you plugged full of lies. That's right. You daubed it all over with false religion. That's what she says. She says, when terror strikes you like a storm, and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when trouble and stress overcome you, then they will call to me, but I won't answer. They will search for me, but they won't find me. Wisdom comes to teach you, but if you can't listen to her to begin to understand, then you're never going to find her. Because once she leaves, there's going to be nobody here to teach you wisdom, to teach you knowledge, to teach you cautiousness as you move forth into the truth, which isn't bowed at the feet of an idol. So cautiously pick yourself up. Yeah, it took me a lot of years. It did. For they that hate knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, they would none of my counsel, and they despised all of my correction. They were not interested in my counsel, and they rejected all of my correction. They will eat the fruit of their way and be glutted with their own schemes. For the turning away of the inexperienced will kill them, and the complacency of fools will destroy them. Bow down at the feet of an idol, there's another term for you, is the complacency of fools. And it will destroy you. But whoever listens to me will live securely and be free from the fear of danger. When you are wise enough to know that you've hit on wisdom, you know it. You just know it. Because it reasons out and it makes sense. This don't. This religious lie and law don't make an ounce of sense. So for her sake I shall have estimation among the multitude, in honor with the elders, though I be young. I shall be found of quick conceit and judgment, and shall be admired in the sight of great men. Because there's no great women. When I hold my tongue, they shall bide my leisure, and when bid my leisure. And when I speak, they shall give good ear unto me. If I talk much, they shall lay their hands upon their mouth. Moreover, by the means of her, I shall obtain immortality. That's right. It's only through wisdom. If you leave her out of the picture, guess what? No immortality. You think a Jesus is coming to take you home and into immortality and to reign over you in love. Right. By her, by wisdom only, will you obtain immortality. And leave behind me an everlasting memorial to them that come after me. I shall set the people in order. Again, Psalm 50. And the nations shall be subject unto me. They're subject to her. They're subject to wisdom. It was her law that was to rule the land. That's who it was. And she is called the sovereign Lord. Horrible tyrants shall be afraid when they do but hear of me. I shall be found good among the multitude and valiant in war. What does it say about making war? That's 8:12. Proverbs 8:12. What does it say about making war? No, it's not. No, that's a different. Let's go back to Proverbs 8:12. It says, I, wisdom, dwell together with prudence. I possess knowledge and discretion. That's Proverbs 8:12. Prudence, definition of prudence, the quality of being prudent, cautious. That's what it means, cautiousness. We need to exercise prudence, cautiousness in such a matter, especially in the matters of religion that are controlled by men. You ladies might want to be very cautious as you approach a male idol. So 6195, prudence, craftiness, shrewd, wise. They want to say a lot of negative things. But we know wisdom just said, I will mock you in the day of your calamity. You didn't want to listen to me. So wise though she is, she has a level, a cutoff point, where she says, fine, you don't want to listen to me. I'm going to cut the burden away from those who did listen to me. And they will come out of the womb of sheol. They will join me in immortality. Those who wants to go back into the womb of sheol, keep following your idol. That's where you're headed. Okay. Now we want to go to war, right? Because we get the connection here to war. Horrible tyrants shall be afraid when they do but hear of me. I shall be found good among the multitude and valiant in war. So where do we find valiant in war? If we go to Proverbs 24, what does it say? Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. For their heart studieth destruction, and their lips talks of mischief. Through wisdom is a house built. So my tabernacle is very different. You know, we're working our way at building our own house through wisdom. We are the representation of wisdom on earth. And by understanding is it established. Yeah. And by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. Yeah. A wise man, we'll flip to the men now, a wise man is strong. Yea, a man of knowledge increases in strength. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war. This is her. By wise counsel. Now, she has to set the case in order. We're told she does that. And you only do that through the counsel of wisdom. That's how you do it. For by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in the multitude of counselors there is safety. So when we get all the descriptions of what it means to be wise, these are your counselors, right? Wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate, and he doesn't. It's her that's going to have to open her mouth in the gate. She's actually the key that can open the gate. Otherwise, the gate is going to stay closed. It's only she with the clean hands and pure hearts that can ascend to her mother's throne. And what I'm beginning to realize is that each planet, I know it sounds crazy to talk planets, but stars, you get in the word star, in the Greek or the Hebrew, can't remember, maybe both. Look up planets or star, and it'll include planets in there. But she says, I will gather them from the four corners of the heavens. And I think many of these planets got took out in a war, in a heavenly war, and it was fallen Adam who targeted her throne, her rightful position, and her territory. He targeted it. And Only when these daughters are reborn out of the dust of the earth, not on just earth, it doesn't look like. And then we see them being gathered from the four corners, and I'm going to liken that to the virgin with her virgin companions. And to be a virgin means to have the truth. It doesn't have a sexual connotation. It has purity in the heart, is the core understanding of what that term means. So you'd get a virgin man. They never speak of virgin males, never. It's always virgin, because it's sexual. It's to sexualize a woman. It means to have the truth. And she's gathered to present her case to the Ancient of Days. We see her presenting that case to the Ancient of Days. They say the Son of Man is brought. Nope. And his kingdom is restored. No, it's the daughter of woman, Israel herself, brought to the Ancient of Days with her female companions who have done the same thing where they're from. That's why they are gathered from the four corners of heaven. And restoration is hers. And when it's hers, it is theirs. So, I see that. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate. And he that devises to do evil shall be called a mischievous person. The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scorner is an abomination to men. Actually, it's an abomination to wisdom. A man inside of a man. And we get David, one thing from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek her in her temple. He loved woman, the nature of woman. He loved the nature of the wisdom of the woman. Baal, however, hated her and wanted to rule over her, and then we end up with the wife of this sick covenant called Baal as well, clucking out and just basically bouncing everything back to him that his little ears wants to hear. Honey on the dung. Oh, but it's wormwood. It's killing you. Yeah, you'll go back into the womb of Sheol. The kings are trapped there. And the snare that they laid for us daughters to fall into, they have fallen into it, and they do not escape it. Their pride won't let them. Their belief in the idol of Jesus won't let them. That's both male and female, their wife Baal. She's no different than he is. You're not born of the water, are you? Many are called, but few are chosen. They're born of the water. And the water, from what I can understand, is it's only one that is born of the water that can take back the birthright, which you find the seventh angel standing, taking back her birthright, her dominion restored back to her, 1 foot on the water, because she's took back the truth, the word, which was always hers, and the land, which is the body. Yeah, they're both hers. They're her birthright. And by extension, because she's took them back, it's her blessing. Yeah, which we see Jacob dividing into two. It was for the firstborn. So if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. If thou forbear to deliver them that are drawn unto death, and those that are ready to be slain, if thou sayest, behold, we knew it not, does not the one that pondereth the heart consider it? You're not considering any of these words of wisdom? You're not? And the one that keepeth thy soul, doth not she know it? And shall not she render to every man according to his works? Every woman? Right? My son, eat thou honey, because it is good, and the honeycomb which is sweet to thy taste. But the honey comes from the wife of the original covenant, not the harlot. Oh, and what does she say? Oh, waters drank and bread eaten in secret. They hid when they did it. So shall the knowledge of wisdom be unto thy soul when thou hast found it. Then there shall be a reward. And thy expectation shall not be cut off. You're not going to be cut off. You're not part of the harlot spirit. That's why Abraham was instructed to cut off the foreskin. That was the covenant with the harlot. And we see Christian men, they don't bother with that. You know why? Because her covenant is still with the harlot. She's hid in his heart. Okay. So we have that. Okay, and I was going to go back to 78 because we were going to finish reading that. Because this is all caught up in this context here. They kept not the covenant of God and refused to walk in her law. And they forgot her works and her wonders that she had showed to them when she parted the waters. That's the presence of God. Marvelous things did she in the sight of their fathers, and in the land of Egypt, and in the field of Zoan. She divided the sea and caused them to pass through, and she made the waters to stand as a heap. That's the birthing of the children through. That's her job to do, the presence of God. And who have we forgotten the works of? Who are we not allowed to know the great wonders of? Women. That's who. We're told this was all the work of Moses. It had nothing to do with her. Who turned her back on us? She did. You know why? Because we stopped listening to our mother and started listening to Baal. And that is what is becoming between you and wisdom, why you can't pick it up. In the daytime also she led them with a cloud, and all night with a light of fire. She clave the rock in the wilderness and gave them drink, as out of the great depth. Getting the correlation there to Song of Songs 4:12-15? No? She? No? As the water? She brought streams also out of the rock and caused water to run down like rivers. And they sinned yet more against her by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. They were calling on the Most High. That was their power to call upon, the Most High's power to control the elements. They had all power, these women, the presence of God. We also get the sons of God, who would have been their sons. But we get no mention of women being godlike beings. We just get the sons of God. And baby, I heard that one my whole life. They used to get off on that one on the pulpit. They loved it. Man, sons of God. We're sons of God. Oh, yeah. You women, tis, tis, you better listen to us. Yeah, heard that one. She brought streams also out of the rock and caused waters to run down like rivers. And they sinned yet more against her by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. And they tempted God, her, in their heart by asking meat for their lust. All right, you weren't supposed to shed blood. Which is also, it actually takes us to, there's a correlation here to ritual with what Cain did. Right? So that's found in Isaiah 66. Let me see here. Oh, if I don't put in Bible Hub, it'll give me every other one but the one I want. Okay, so it did give me Bible Hub. Okay, so Isaiah 66, what does it say? Pay attention here. Cain did not offer up the goods of the land. Abel did. And Abel wasn't a male. Abel was a female. And she was wisdom's representation on earth. That's what she was. The women were to be this. And she was offering up, that's why Abel's name means a meadow. She was offering up the goods of the land. She was offering up a Thanksgiving offering. You know what Cain said? Hey, if I offer up meat, I'll get the attention of God. So here we get verse 3 of Isaiah 66. You can't put it together. He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. So what did Cain do? He slew Abel, is what he did. Which is telling you right here that he was the one that actually offered up an ox. That's what he did, a bull. Yeah. And then they spun it all around to make sure that, they could really twist the lie good. There's two males here. The womb don't hold a female. Well, the womb of Sheol, the womb of earth, held male and female. It wasn't two males. See, so they get the context wrong right from the beginning. The accuser, Satan, Adam, he accused his wife, his sister, if you want to call her that. He that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. He that sacrifices a lamb as if he cut off a dog's neck. He that offereth an oblation as if he offered swine's blood. He that burneth incense as if he blessed an idol. Oh, do they burn incense today? Do they offer up sacrifices like this at festivals? Sure they do. You think God's listening? God ain't listening. Oh no, the one-time sacrifice of Jesus. Sorry, wrong. That's an idol. That's what it just said. He that burneth incense as if he blessed an idol. Yea, they have chosen their own ways, and their souls delighteth in their abominations. And they do. Watch them. Oh, they can't love Jesus enough. They delighteth in their abominations. All the men, oh Jesus, the only begotten Son of Father. They delighteth in their abominations. A man inside of a man. Psalm 27:4. One thing from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord, and to seek him in his temple. They delighteth in their abominations. Get it yet? Too thick? Too hard to comprehend wisdom? Don't worry. When she leaves, you're not going to find her again. You can die with your abominations that you are so delighted in, your idols. I also, what does it say? Will choose their delusions, and I will bring their fears upon them. Sounds like wisdom. Because when I called, none did answer. Oh, what did we read in Proverbs 1? What did we read in Proverbs 1? When I spake, they did not hear, but they did evil before mine eyes, and they chose that in which I delighted not. That's right. Everything in this land is designed to go against her and her counsel. Everything. Hear the word of the Lord, ye that tremble at her word. Your brethren that hated you. You sisters, you still ain't woke up to the fact that he hated you, and you're wearing that yoke of religious lies on your neck. Yeah, like a harlot spirit bowed down at the feet of an idol. God says, you saw no image, you make no image. I sent my daughters with the commandments that you were to uphold. I didn't tell you to worship them, but I did tell you to listen to them. And when you didn't listen to them, you didn't listen to me. Now that's what it says. Your brethren hated you, that cast you out for my name's sake. Whose sake? Wisdom. The Ancient of Days' sake, our mother's sake. Said, let the Lord be glorified, but she shall appear to your joy, and they shall be ashamed. So those of us that knows our mother, that are born of the water, that chose to actually stand and go against the masses who's on that thick, wide path going down to the womb of Sheol again. We're on the narrow path, and she says, but I will appear to your joy, and they will be in shame. A voice of noise from the city, a voice from the temple, a voice of the Lord that rendereth recompense to her enemies. Allow me to set the case in order, she says. Long time have I held my peace. I was in deep mourning. God permitted the daughters to go to sleep, and to go to sleep means to sleep in this lie, right? To believe the lie. Where at the end she promises to awaken them to the truth once again. And that's through the Spirit that's found in us. Many are called, few are chosen, but she does know us. Hear the word of the Lord, ye that tremble at her word. I just read that. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Okay, we're going to skip this because I want to get to the verse I really want, which is a long ways down. I'd like to read some of this. We'll keep going to the verse that we want, which is 65, I believe. This is a very long chapter. Okay. Going down here. No, it's not. This isn't the long one. I'm in Isaiah 66, sorry. So that was Isaiah. I was looking at verse 3, sorry. I was thinking I was in Psalm 78. I'm sorry about that. So, he that killeth an ox is as if he slew a man. Well, who slew a man? It wasn't Abel. It was Cain. So, bring it back. So, who offered up the ox? Cain did, not Abel. So, Psalm 78 was where I was reading. This is the long one. Behold, he smote the rock that the waters gushed out and the streams overflowed. Actually, they'll tell us Moses struck the rock, and he did. We know that the men inside the nation of Israel struck the rock. The rock was she, the wise women of Israel, where the water was found from, because they came from the water, is what we identify. And because she comes from the water and the rock, she can claim them both. They're her birthright. And you get this here. Behold, she smote the rock that the waters gushed out. She was actually the one doing it all, and then we remove her from the context. My footprints through the waters you did not see. Where's that found? I've got that pulled up. Right there. Nope, that's Song of Songs. That's Song of Songs. Right there. No. Did I not pull it up? I think I might have forgot to pull this one up. Where was it found? Okay, it was Psalm 77. Did I write it down? I thought I had wrote that down. Okay, so this here. I'll put this here because I did write the reference down, but I didn't put why. So that's Psalm 77:19. Your path led through the sea, your way through the mighty waters, though your footprints were not seen. Right? Because we know that the water, admixture of doctrine, come back in and covered her footprints and removed her from the context altogether. Which is what she's telling us right there. The presence is. She. Wisdom. So, behold, she was the one that did smite the rock, that the waters gushed out and the streams overflowed. Can she give bread also? Can she provide flesh for her people? Therefore the Lord heard this and was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob. So when we get Jacob, it could be Judah. We get the masculine here, is what we're looking at. The sons is what was angering the daughters. And wisdom and anger also came up against Israel because the women started to turn to them. That's what we see going on. Because they believed not in God. And they trusted not in her salvation. Salvation means deliverance. They did not believe that she was the one that could deliver them. They believed in the men. And that's what we got today. That's what's standing between you and the true spirit of power coming upon you. Though she had commanded the clouds from above and opened the doors of heaven, and had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. You see, it doesn't say the blood. Doesn't say meat. Man did eat angels' food. She sent them meat to the full. She caused an east wind to blow in the heaven, and by her power she brought in the south wind. She rained flesh also upon them as dust, and feathered fowls like as the sand of the sea, and she let it fall in the midst of their camp round about their habitations. So they did eat and were well filled, for she gave them their own desire. It was they who wanted meat in their mouth, the men. And the women turned to follow right behind them. And these are called your women of Baal, identified as the wife. Yet more are the children of the desolate spirit than of she, Baal, who has a husband. She'll end up, when it's all said and done, having more children. Hearkening back to her covenant of light once again. They were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouth, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them and smote down the chosen men of Israel. For all this they sinned still, and they believed not her wondrous works. Which is why the rod was taken from you. Taken from you. Therefore their days did she consume in vanity, and their years in trouble. And when she slew them, when they sought her, and they returned and inquired early after her. When she killed some of them, the rest began to seek her. This is verse 34. And they repented and they searched for God, for her. Much like you might repent and seek for wisdom, but there comes a time when she's not here anymore. And because it takes wisdom herself to show you these things, and she leaves, guess what? You're not going to find him. You're not wise enough to. They remembered that God was their rock, the Most High God, their Redeemer. Look at that. Where is that? I didn't pull this one up. But where is that? Where's that one found? Isn't that Deuteronomy 32:18? Guess what you're going to get? You're not going to get a father. You're going to get a female that you denied as your creator. Verse 18. We've looked at this hundreds of times, possibly. Verse 18. Of the rock that begat thee, thou art unmindful, and hast forgotten the God that formed thee. You ignored the rock who gave you birth. You forgot the God who gave birth to you, who writhed in pain to bring you forth. That don't sound like Father. You know, I remember when I was giving birth to my son. You know where my husband was? He was out getting something for his dinner. That's where. Yeah. When my greatest pains hit. So, you think it was Daddy here? Writhing in pain to give birth to you as your rock? Who you all ignored? Who did you ignore? Wisdom. The instructions of wisdom. You can't be bothered to listen to her. Which is where law comes from. These wise women. Can't be bothered. No. Don't want nothing to do with her. And they remembered that God was the rock and the high God, their Redeemer. Nevertheless, they did flatter her with their mouths, and they lied unto her with their tongues. They didn't do that, did they? For their heart was not right with her, neither were they steadfast in her covenant, and they were not. They sought to shape a covenant of darkness. 666. 6 times 6 times 6, 216 means light, your light. Light comes in various spectrums. But we know that wisdom of the number 666 takes us back to Solomon, who changed the light to darkness, the covenant of light to darkness, by changing the portion in the midst. No one sees me. So when she slew them, then they sought her, and they returned and inquired early after God, and they remembered that God was their rock. Okay, I read this. Then they flattered her. But then what does it say? It says, you approach to me with the vain traditions of men. You don't even know me. He. Jesus is God. They spewed vomit on the tables after they drank the wine. And they put it to their sister's lips so they could expose her nakedness and look upon her. Yeah, but that wasn't the covenant of God. But she, being full of compassion, not he. She's the one full of compassion. She's the one carrying the burden, seeing that children continues to be born on this earth, not him. She does it in pain. She does it in great travail. She does it in great humility. And she does it in great compassion. But she forgave their iniquity, and she destroyed them not. Yea, many a time turned she her anger away, and did not stir up all of her wrath. And if you think womankind's wrath has been stirred to the full, you want to look out. It ain't even begun to be stirred yet. Which is what this is saying. For she remembered that they were but flesh, a wind that passes away and cometh not again. So women have great compassion, and they understand life and death. Men not so much. You know, hey, let's go to war. Yeah, look at me. Watch their games. It's all swords and sorcery and knives and killing and maiming and but then they have immortality and resurrection but no, that don't happen. That don't. So how oft did they provoke her in the wilderness and grieve her in the desert? Yea, they turned back and tempted her and limited the Holy One of Israel. They remembered not her hand, nor the day when she delivered them from the enemy. How she had wrought her sign in Egypt and her wonders. Then we go through here with all the wonders in Egypt that she, the presence of God, performed. Now, what does it say? And she brought them to the border of her sanctuary, even to the mountain which her right hand had purchased. That's right. That's the presence of God that did that. And they didn't do it with blood. She cast out the heathen also before them and divided them an inheritance by line and made the tribes of Israel to dwell in their tents. Yet they tempted and provoked the Most High and kept not her testimony. So we see this religious life following the men straight into the Holy Land, which is represented by the women who took the land. It was theirs to take. But they turned not and dealt unfaithfully, just like their fathers. They were turned aside like a deceitful bow. What's the bow representation in the scriptures? Covenant. Like a deceitful covenant, who fired their own religious lies and words of arrows and a sharp-tongued sword at the truth to cut her down. And that's shown in Joseph's blessings in Genesis 49, 23, 24, when they go after the branches. And your word there is Baal's, your archers who attacked the branches, the daughters, going over the wall of David. For they provoked her to anger with their high places and moved her to jealousy with their graven images. So the graven images is male, the high places is female, playing harlot. And she was provoked to great anger when this came into view. So when God heard this, she was wroth and greatly abhorred Israel. She hated her own inheritance. So that she forsook them. She forsook the tabernacle of Shiloh, the tent which she placed among men. And she delivered her own strength, women, into captivity, and her glory, women, into the enemy's hands. She gave her people over unto the sword, and was wroth with her inheritance. The fire consumed their young men, and their maidens were not given to marriage. Their priests fell by the sword, and their widows made no lamentation. Then the Lord, watch this, this is her. Then finally, the Lord awoke as if from sleep, like a warrior from the effects of wine. So this is showing us that the daughters do awake back up out of the dust of the earth. They're rebirthed out of the womb of Sheol. When the Lord chooses to awaken us and place her spirit of wisdom back upon us, we will shake off the effects of the wine. That's the admixture of doctrine, blood on the table. They mixed blood into her water that flowed out of the stone. She's the stone, the foundation stone that was rejected, with the water that would wash the blood off of you, will wash the blood off of you. And the Lord here, 136, is the Lord of Lords. It's her kingdom, her dominion. And she will shake off the effects of the wine, the lie, the admixture of doctrine that got the priests all drunk. And she beat back her foes. She gave them lasting shame. She rejected the tent of Joseph and did not choose the tribe of Ephraim. And she did not for men, because they turned on her. The men turned on her because she came from Ephraim. She chose her scepter out of Ephraim, Joseph. And the men in Ephraim turned on them. So she passes over them. So let's not make the mistake of going, Shiloh is going to be reclaimed, because it's her coming back on her daughters. It wasn't the daughters. It was the sons that were causing the rejecting of the Spirit. She built her sanctuary like the heights, like the earth that she established forever. She chose David, her servant. Why? Why under the sun would she choose David? One thing from the Lord, this only do I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord and to seek her in her temple. He wanted to truly know her. He didn't want her standing there just reflecting back all of his crap that he told her right back at him. He wanted to know her truly, truly. And the men don't. The men on this earth wants to know self. They want to know their abomination. They want to know Father's lie. That's what they want to know. And that's what they've got in this land. But wisdom says, when I leave, when I'm done, I'm going to laugh. Oh, I'm going to laugh. After I came into mine house, I will repose myself with her, for her conversation has no bitterness, and to live with her hath no sorrow, but mirth and joy. And that's the truth of wisdom when you receive her, when you accept her. It's a whole nother ballgame when you reject her. Now, when I considered these things in myself and pondered them in my heart, how that to be allied unto wisdom is immortality. We go on into immortality, we do. Those that won't hear wisdom's calls goes right back into the womb of Sheol. And that's where the great kings are trapped. They can't get out of it because, you know what? It's called pride. And great pleasure it is to have her friendship. And in the works of her hands are infinite riches. And in the exercise of conference with her, prudence, and in talking with her, a good report. I went about seeking how to take her to me. So the only way the sons can take her to them is if she exists in us first. So we're the ones that must take her to us in order for man to take her into him. You see, there's two temples. But he exalts the harlot because he don't want to know her. Get it? Yeah, he just wants to know himself. That's the abomination of desolation. A man inside of a man shall be a desolate spirit, because none will hearken to the spirit of her covenant, because they don't even know her. She says, you don't even know who I am. So, for I was a witty child and had a good spirit. Yea, rather being good, I came into a body undefiled. We did in the beginning. Water, she did in the beginning. She did. He did in the beginning. Right? But now we are born in sin, shapen in iniquity, in the religious lie. Nevertheless, when I perceived that I could not otherwise obtain her except God gave her me, and that was a point of wisdom also, to know whose gift she was. You're going to know these daughters because they're going to speak a truth that resonates. Right? Words that's going to resonate as the truth. I prayed unto the Lord and besought her, and with my whole heart I said, now we're moving into chapter 9, O God of my mothers, and then we'll put fathers, and Lord of mercy, who has made all things with thy word, and ordained woman through thy wisdom that should have dominion over the creatures which thou hast made. Now they got man. She was the one that had the dominion. The kingdom was hers. All right, we see that in Daniel 7. The dominion will be restored back to the stronghold of the daughter of Zion. Back to her argument. You see, she wins her case. And order the world according to equity and righteous, and execute judgment with an upright heart. So we'll end there, and we'll pick it up in verse 4 of chapter 9. I'm sorry I blathered and blundered over it. I did have it better. I got to learn just to pick it up and maybe go with it and make the mistakes that I'm going to make. All right. Sorry, I guess apparently I have turned